My name is Arthur Finch, and I've always been a creature of habit, a man who found comfort in routine and predictability. For the past 25 years, my life has revolved around my quaint little bookstore, the Bound Tome, nestled on a quiet cobblestone street in the heart of Oak Haven. It's a place where the scent of old paper and fresh coffee mingles, a haven for literary souls and a testament to my lifelong passion. My apartment, a modest two-bedroom affair, sits directly above the shop, its windows offering a bird's-eye view of the sleepy town square. My wife, Clara, passed away 5 years ago, leaving a void that no amount of books or comforting routines could truly fill. We had one son, Michael, who now lives in the bustling metropolis of Verdant City, a 2-hour drive away. Michael, bless his ambitious heart, always aimed for a grander life than Oak Haven could offer. He pursued a career in finance, a world away from my quiet literary pursuits, and married a vivacious woman named Serafina. She's spirited, with a penchant for the finer things in life, a stark contrast to Clara's understated elegance. Lately, I've noticed a shift in Michael's demeanor, a subtle undercurrent of entitlement that I couldn't quite place. He'd call more often, his conversations subtly steering towards my financial well-being, my investments, the profitability of the bookstore. I, being an open book, pun intended, never saw the harm in discussing such matters with my son. I'd mentioned the modest but consistent income from the Bound Tome, the small nest egg Clara and I had built, our investments in local Oak Haven businesses. I thought I was simply sharing the details of my life with him, fostering a connection. I never imagined it would become a weapon. The day Michael and Serafina arrived, unannounced, was a Thursday, usually a slow day at the shop. I was meticulously alphabetizing a new shipment of antique novels, the gentle rustle of pages a comforting soundtrack. The bell above the door chimed, and there they stood, a jarring splash of vibrant city life against the muted tones of my bookstore. Serafina, in a striking crimson dress, seemed to radiate an almost palpable sense of expectation, while Michael, usually so composed, had a glint in his eye I hadn't seen before. "Dad," Michael exclaimed, his voice a little too loud for the hushed reverence of the Bound Tome. He embraced me, a fleeting, almost perfunctory hug. Serafina offered a bright, almost artificial smile, her eyes scanning the shelves with a disinterest that stung a little. We made our way upstairs to my apartment, a familiar ritual that usually brought a sense of warmth and family. But today, the air felt thick with an unspoken agenda. As I poured them tea, Serafina began, "Arthur, darling, this place is absolutely charming, but isn't it a bit small for someone of your means?" I paused, the teacup halfway to Michael's hand. "My means?" I asked, a faint tremor in my voice. Michael cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze. "Dad, we've been talking. And, well, we've been doing some research." He hesitated, then continued. "We know about the growth of Oak Haven's downtown, the increasing property values. And we know about the Bound Tome's consistent revenue, and your other holdings." My heart began to pound a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. "What are you getting at, Michael?" Serafina, ever the more direct of the two, chimed in. "Arthur, darling, Michael's company, Everest Ventures, is expanding. They're looking to invest in charming, up-and-coming areas like Oak Haven. And with your considerable assets, you're perfectly positioned to help." I stared at them, a cold dread seeping into my bones. Help with what? Michael finally met my eyes, and I saw a reflection of the ruthless ambition that had always simmered beneath his polite exterior. "Dad, we need a significant investment. Everest Ventures is launching a new initiative, and we're looking for seed funding. With your capital, we could really make a splash. And of course, you'd be a silent partner, a major shareholder. It's a win-win." "Significant investment?" I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. "Michael, what are you talking about? I have a comfortable retirement, a stable income from the bookstore. I don't have significant capital to throw into a venture." "Dad, don't be coy," Serafina interjected, a hint of impatience in her tone. "We know about the apartment building on Elm Street that you inherited from your uncle. We know about the trust fund Clara left you, and the dividends from those regional energy stocks. You're sitting on a gold mine here in Oak Haven, while we're struggling to make ends meet in Verdant City, trying to build a future." A wave of disbelief washed over me, followed by a surge of anger. Struggling to make ends meet? Michael, you have a lucrative career. Serafina, you have a thriving online boutique. What struggling are you talking about? It's all relative, Dad, Michael said, a defensive edge to his voice. Verdant City is expensive, and we have certain expectations. We want to buy a house, a proper family home. And frankly, your resources could make that happen for us. We just need a loan. A substantial one. Say 500,000 credits. 500,000 credits. The number hung in the air like a guillotine. My entire life, my carefully curated world of books and quiet comfort, felt as if it were crumbling around me. They weren't asking for a loan. They were demanding my future, my security, my peace of mind. You want me to liquidate my assets, my home, my security, to fund your ambitions? I asked, my voice dangerously low. Without even a proper discussion, a detailed proposal, anything? It's a fantastic opportunity, Dad, Serafina insisted, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. Think of it as investing in your son's future. Our future. Your grandchildren's future. The mention of grandchildren, a subtle emotional manipulation, pricked at my heart, but the anger was a stronger force. I looked at Michael, truly looked at him, and saw a stranger. This wasn't the boy I had raised, the one who spent hours poring over history books in the bound tome, the one who dreamt of making his own way in the world. This was a man consumed by a different kind of hunger, one that saw his own father as a mere stepping stone. No, I said, the word a stark, unwavering declaration. Michael and Serafina exchanged a surprised glance. No, Michael repeated, his voice rising. Dad, this is a surefire investment. We've done our due diligence. It's a guaranteed return. It's not about the return, Michael, I said, finally finding my voice, my resolve hardening. It's about you, about what you're asking of me, and about what you seem to believe is owed to you. The conversation quickly devolved into a heated argument. Serafina, her face flushed with indignation, accused me of being selfish, of holding on to my wealth while my own son struggled. Michael, in turn, listed all the sacrifices he'd made, the long hours he'd worked, the pressures of living in Verdant City. He spoke of his right to a comfortable life, of how I, as his father, had a duty to help him achieve it. Each word was a hammer blow, chipping away at the image I had held of my son, revealing a core of entitlement I had never truly acknowledged. My quiet nature, my tendency to avoid confrontation, had allowed this narrative to fester, to grow unchecked. I had always been the supportive father, the one who gave freely, who believed in his son's dreams. But this wasn't support, this was exploitation. As the afternoon wore on, the argument spiraled, touching on old grievances, unspoken resentments, and the growing chasm between us. I found myself defending not just my finances, but my entire way of life, my choices, my very identity. They painted my comfortable, unassuming existence as a failure, a lack of ambition, a waste of potential. You've just been puttering around in this dusty old bookstore your whole life, Dad. Michael finally exploded, his voice laced with contempt. You could have done so much more. You could have invested, expanded, built an empire. Instead, you chose this. He gestured around my cozy apartment, his hand sweeping dismissively over the bookshelves, the worn armchair, the framed photographs of Clara. The words hit me with a force that momentarily stole my breath. This, he called it. This was my life, my passion, my sanctuary. This was the legacy I had built, not in monetary terms, but in the quiet joy of connecting people with stories, in fostering a love for literature, in creating a haven for myself and for Oakhaven. A profound sadness settled over me, a realization that Michael saw none of this, valued none of it. His eyes were fixed solely on the ledger, on the numbers, on the perceived wealth I possessed. It was in that moment, as the last vestiges of my idealized image of my son shattered, that something shifted within me. The quiet, accommodating Arthur Finch began to stir, a new resolve hardening my spine. Enough, I said, my voice calm, almost unervingly so. The sudden quiet startled Michael and Serafina. This conversation is over. Serafina scoffed. Oh, so now you're just going to shut us out? Just like that? No, I replied, meeting her gaze steadily. I'm setting a boundary. I love you, Michael, and I want you to succeed. But I will not be bullied or manipulated into jeopardizing my own security to fund your lifestyle choices. My assets are not your inheritance to claim while I'm still alive. They are mine, and I will manage them as I see fit. So, you're just going to hoard it all? Michael accused, his face reddening. You're going to deny your own son a chance at a better life. I am denying you nothing that you haven't earned yourself. I countered, my voice gaining strength. I have always supported you, both emotionally and, when necessary, financially. But there is a difference between support and enablement. And what you are asking for now, Michael, is enablement. It is a demand, not a request for help. The tension in the room was palpable. Serafina stood up abruptly, her crimson dress rustling. Well, if that's your attitude, Arthur, then I don't see the point in staying. Then perhaps it's time for you to leave, I said, my voice firm, without a trace of the usual hesitation. It was a terrifying, exhilarating moment. I had never spoken to them like this before, never stood my ground so resolutely. Michael stared at me, his mouth slightly agape, a mixture of shock and anger warring on his face. He had clearly expected me to cave, to acquiesce to their demands as I had so often done in the past. But this time, something was different. I was different. Fine, he bit out, snatching his jacket from the back of the chair. If that's how you feel, then fine. He stormed out of the apartment, Serafina trailing behind him, casting a disdainful look over her shoulder. The door slammed shut, echoing through the quiet apartment, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. I stood there, trembling slightly, but also feeling an unfamiliar sense of power, of self-respect. It was as if a heavy weight had been lifted from my shoulders, a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying until it was gone. The argument had been painful, the confrontation deeply uncomfortable, but in its wake, I felt a clarity I hadn't experienced in years. I walked over to the window, watching as their car, a sleek, expensive model, pulled away from the curb and disappeared down the street. The quiet of Oak Haven settled back in, the gentle hum of the town a soothing balm after the storm. That evening, I didn't open a book. Instead, I sat in my favorite armchair, reflecting on the day's events. The ache in my heart from Michael's words was still present, a dull throb, but it was accompanied by a growing sense of liberation. I had spent so much of my life trying to please others, to avoid conflict, to be the agreeable Arthur. But in doing so, I had allowed my own boundaries to erode, my own needs to be overshadowed. Clara, in her quiet wisdom, had always encouraged me to stand up for myself, to value my own worth. Arthur, she used to say, her eyes twinkling, you are a strong oak, not a wilting willow. Don't let anyone chop at your branches. I hadn't truly understood the depth of her words until now. The next few weeks were fraught with an uneasy silence. Michael didn't call. Serafina sent a terse, resentful email. The absence of their usual demanding calls and visits was both a relief and a source of quiet sorrow. I missed the idea of my son, the son I thought I had, but I didn't miss the pressure, the constant feeling of being judged and found wanting. I started spending more time with my old friends, enjoying long conversations over coffee at the Daily Grind, discussing literature, local politics, and the simple joys of life in Oak Haven. I reconnected with Amelia, the spirited owner of the antique shop across the street, whose practical wisdom and wry humor had always been a source of comfort. We talked about boundaries, about the challenges of parenting adult children, about the importance of self-preservation. You did the right thing, Arthur, Amelia said one afternoon, as we shared a pot of herbal tea in her cluttered shop. It's not selfish to protect yourself. It's necessary. Sometimes, the best love you can give is tough love. Her words resonated deeply. I also started taking better care of myself, rediscovering my old passion for hiking in the nearby Willow Creek Nature Reserve. The crisp air, the rustling leaves, the winding paths, they all offered a sense of grounding, a reminder of the quiet strength that lay within me. One crisp autumn morning, a few months after their visit, I received an unexpected package. It was a small, unassuming box, tied with a simple twine. Inside, nestled among layers of tissue paper, was a beautifully bound first edition of The Secret Garden, a book Michael had cherished as a child. There was no note, no message, just the book. I held it in my hands, a wave of complex emotions washing over me. It wasn't an apology, not explicitly, but it was something. A small olive branch, a subtle acknowledgement of a shared past, a reminder of a bond that, despite everything, still existed. I didn't know. The future with Michael and Serafina remained uncertain. Would they ever truly understand my perspective? Would our relationship ever heal? I couldn't say. But as I looked at the familiar cover of The Secret Garden, a quiet sense of hope bloomed within me. I had found my own secret garden, a place of peace and self-respect that no amount of external pressure could now threaten. I had learned that my worth wasn't tied to my possessions or to anyone's approval, but to the quiet strength of my own convictions, to the simple, profound act of valuing myself. And that, I realized, was a priceless treasure, more valuable than any gold mine.